Chapter 4. Dread filled Ava as she pulled into the parking lot of Caring Chiropractic. It wasn't that she disliked seeing Chris or even his employees, but the thought of the adjustment and the pain it would bring again was almost unbearable. She took a deep breath and prayed for courage as she opened the front door of the office. "Ava, you look better today," Chris said. "Really? I don't feel any better. I still can't move my neck and I had to sleep in a chair last night." He nodded as if he'd expected that answer. "Not surprising, but after today's adjustment, you should feel 30% better." Ava scribbled her name on the sign-in log. "Is it going to hurt as much as it did yesterday?" "Probably, but then it will get better. Come on, I'll take you back before you have too long to think about it." He motioned for her to follow him down the hallway. "Do we have to do it lying down again?" The fear in Ava's voice surprised her. She didn't normally consider herself a fearful person, but that pain yesterday had been... She didn't even have words for what it had been. "We can try sitting if you'd like." Chris pulled the chair into the center of the room and patted the back. "Just make sure you put your back all the way against the back of the chair here." Ava complied and tried to relax as his hands felt around her neck again, but it was impossible. Even with his help in moving her neck, the pain started before he yanked and then skyrocketed off the charts with the swift movement. Not quite as bad as yesterday, but close. Oh, so close. The second yank sent tears to her eyes, but they didn't fall today. "Okay, more ice today and take it easy." Chris patted her shoulder and then helped her stand. "I will." Ava had no plans to do anything other than sit in her recliner, sleep, and maybe write a little if she was lucky. When she woke that afternoon, the first thing she did was pop more Tylenol. She didn't like feeling like she needed it to get through the day, but that's exactly where she was. The Tylenol dulled the ache enough that she decided to try writing. She settled into the chair and opened her laptop, but before she dove into her story, she decided to check her mail. Normally an everyday activity, she hadn't done it at all yesterday. Ava sighed as she read the first email. She was supposed to lead worship practice tonight. Having always loved singing, she had joined the worship team shortly after she and Justin married, and she loved it, but the thought of singing on stage this week with such pain in her neck filled her with fear. She should cancel, say she couldn't make it, but the normal worship leader and the pianist were both out of town. The responsibility for making sure the team practiced and sounded good lay firmly on her shoulders. She'd have Justin drive her tonight. He'd said he'd be home earlier today. Dropping Kylie off was scary enough, but Heidi's home was close, so she didn't have to drive that far. The church was across town and would require getting on the interstate, not something Ava felt comfortable doing with no movement in her neck. And surely by Sunday the pain would be gone, or at least diminished enough that she could function. With her game plan figured out, Ava finished checking the mail and then loaded her work in progress. The words came easily enough, but fatigue hit with them, and by early afternoon she was fairly certain she had slept more than she had written. "Hey, baby, let's get you in the car. You get to come to worship practice with Mommy tonight." Ava forced a cheeriness in her voice that she didn't feel, but hoped would relieve any fears that Kylie might be feeling. Kylie's eyes lit up and she clapped her hands together. "Can we watch you sing?" "Sure, baby, if it's okay with Daddy." Ava glanced Justin's direction and he nodded. "Might as well, since we are your ride." "Thank you for this," Ava said, lowering her voice so Kylie wouldn't overhear. "I just didn't want to chance anything having to drive so much farther." "It's my pleasure. I don't need anything happening to you." He planted a quick kiss on her cheek before ushering them out the door. Ava tried not to grimace during the ride to the church. On one hand, she was glad Justin was driving, so she didn't have to move her neck. But he was a much more aggressive driver than she was, and he didn't avoid the bumps or slow down on the turns, which also aggravated her pain. Relief flooded her when the car stopped and the engine turned off. "Mommy, come get me!" Kylie hollered from behind Justin's seat. "Baby, I wish I could, but Daddy's gonna have to get you today." This was what Ava hated the most, not being able to function normally, not being able to pick up her daughter. "But I'll hold your hand once he gets you down." "Okay." Resignation filled Kylie's voice, but she didn't fight them. Justin and Kylie sat dutifully in the front row of the church while Ava led worship. The pain never left, but an odd tingling sensation trickled across her head as she sang the words to God. Perhaps just lifting her praises to God in this way would bring the healing she sought.